EU5 came out like 3 weeks ago, and I already have spent over 300 hours in it. And I felt like I wanted to kind of do this time capsule thing where I review the game at 300 hours, you know? Kind of stole this idea from Generalist Gaming. But anyway, let's just get into the review, okay? I'm gonna review this game. I feel like I should state some things before that, like preface it a little bit. So, first of all, there will be a mini, like, general review about the game at the beginning. You know, my thoughts about the game in a quick and concise manner. So for anybody who's not interested in the nitty-gritty, they can just watch that. But after that, I'm gonna go into more detail of specific features. I'm just gonna pick England here, so we have something in the background. I can show certain things. It makes it easier to explain. And yeah, I probably have chapters if I'm not lazy. Who knows? So you can just skip to where you want to skip. I will also be comparing this game to other Paradox games and to EU4, because, well, EU4 is the predecessor to this game. And even though they're pretty different, even though I don't think they're that different, I think there's still some comparisons that can be warranted, okay? So, first of all, just the gist of it, what I think about this game. I've been waiting for this game ever since the first Tinto Talk, which came out a month before I started playing EU4, by the way. Not a month, it came a month after I started playing EU4, so I played EU4 a month before that. Anyway, I have roughly 500 hours in EU4, so it's still more hours, but over the course of 2 years, so I'm gonna spend more hours in this game. Anyway, that out of the way, so you know my credentials. And I started with HOI4, okay? I started with HOI4, then switched to EU4, and now EU5, so that you know. But I have played pretty much every modern Paradox game, you know, that's still being updated. So I feel like I have pretty good knowledge about, like, general knowledge. So anyway, EU5, in my opinion, is a good game, and you can buy it right now and have fun with it. That's what I think, okay? This game is good. It's super fun to play. There are some problems, which I originally wanted to make this video after 100 hours and then after 200 hours, but I'm glad I waited for 300 hours because I would have glossed over so many you know, errors or kind of like annoyances with the game if I made the review earlier, because it took me 300 hours to notice them, which, to be fair, is a good sign, okay? That means you can put 300 hours in this game, depending on, like, maybe some people can put more or less before noticing these errors, before you, like, get annoyed by these, or before, like, it kind of affects you. So 300 hours, that is a good sign, in my opinion. It costs, I think, 60 euros, something like that, 50 euros. I'm not sure. So it's a good price for the things that you get, but in a way it's also a bad price because you're gonna pay hundreds of dollars in DLC over the course. So sorry for that. So everybody has to figure that out for themselves. Anyway, I'm just gonna say it outright. If you like Paradox games in general, and you don't mind the price, it's worth it, okay? If you're on the verge. It's worth it if you don't care about flavor too much. Because here is the biggest negative, kind of, the game doesn't have that much flavor. Especially if you compare it to EU4. I feel like it has, like, content-wise, it's not that inferior to EU4. I think even to some degree better than EU5, EU4. Not to some degree, to a large degree, I think. You can spend more time in here, theoretically, but the problem is that it doesn't have as much flavor, which is expected. EU4 had, like 12 years of flavor. So yeah, flavor is an issue. The game also has a lot of mechanics. Okay, so for example, if you think about the other Paradox games, you have Wiki 3. What do you think about Wiki 3? Economy. Okay, economy. That's the economy game. When you think about Hoi 4, what do you think about? The war game. It's all about war. When you think about CK3, what do you think about? It's the dynastic game, you know, your dynasty, the roleplay kind of game, you know, that. And if you think about EU4, what is that? I would say EU4 also kind of has that thing where you cannot really place it in a category like the other ones. Personally, if I have to think about maybe the blobbing game, that could be it, like the blobbing game, but you can blob in every game. You know, I think you can blob more in Hoi 4. Hoi 4 is easier to blob. So I would say maybe it's a combination of like multiple things. That's kind of what EU4 was as well, not to the extent that EU5 was. I think EU5 is kind of more in line with Imperator Rome, where it just tries to do everything. And it doesn't excel at any of them, but the combination of them in one game is what makes it good. So yeah, that's what I think. I do think... Okay, and here I'm gonna go into more detail, you know, that was just a quick gist of it, okay? I think it's good. It's worth it. If you like Paradox games, it doesn't really have any mechanic that kind of makes it stick out. It's just the width of the mechanics, okay? The game is more wide in terms of focus instead of deep. You know, there are not many mechanics in the game that are crazy deep. You know, at first you're gonna think that, but if you play the game a little bit, you notice quickly that no real system is really deep. It's just the amounts of systems that exist in the game. So it's not a deep game. It's kind of a wide game, if you know what I mean. Doesn't have much flavor, so most countries just feel the same to play, with some minor variances, but most really just feel the same to play. Okay, that's how it goes. Another problem is a lot of bugs still, or like a lot of... if you think about it, not really that many bugs for a release like a Paradox game, and they already fixed a lot, but I still think that it's notable that some things just don't work properly. You know, with the 1.0.8 beta branch, they fixed a lot, but for example, I'm still playing on 1.0.7 here right now, and inland colonization doesn't work here or whatever. So still quite a few bugs or things that don't work correctly. Balance issues. I think the game needs a lot of balancing, but that is like the least of our problems, I think. So that's out of the way. That's what I think about the game. That was like the basic gist of it. Now I'm gonna go more into detail what I think about certain aspects. So first of all, let's go into the economics. You know, EU4 or like the Europa Universalis series is not known for an economic heavy game. You know, you had an economy, quote unquote, in EU4, which you could use for all things, you know, for all kinds of things, basically, or mostly just having a large army or having a large navy. That was, money was important for that kind of thing. But it wasn't the main focus. Here in EU5, I think that the economic side has been a larger focus. So, for example, with one thing here, you have proximity to capital, which affects control, which affects how much you get out of those locations. Here, for example, you get 5 out of these locations, and it would probably make more sense to just release this as a vassal, you know, you can release it as Cornwall. If these were like important locations, but they're not really important to you, and you can easily increase the control here, and you're gonna increase the control fast. So, you know, but if you had like a new conquered lands that had low control, you can just make it a vassal, and then they take care of it for you. So you have these mechanics. You obviously have a tax base, you know, where you can tax the most people here, tax base, which you can also influence by the amount of buildings you have here. So for example, you could have a lot of burger buildings, so you can tax the burgers, which obviously get you more money than taxing peasants or clergy, which you cannot tax. You have obviously the raw goods, which you can upgrade and then use for monetary purposes as well, or like for to reduce like building costs. You have the markets here, which you can interact with. For example, here market access 62% means that obviously here 50%, 75%. Is there like some market here where there's a little bit worse? Here 31%, maybe you would want to make a market here. Or for example, here in Stockholm, you can see here it's 0%, so that obviously affects you as well. So there's also a thing, you know, the markets also play into that. Population, of course, the more population you have, the more population you can tax. There's obviously you know, a thing. And then here you have development, which also affects a little bit. Prosperity affects development. You have roads, which also affect your proximity, which also affect the money you make. So yeah, there are a lot of things that influence the money you make. But the meta for making the most amount of money is building around your capital. You know, if you look here, we have high control in these lands, so just build here. Okay, that's the meta. Build here, get burgers buildings, because those make the most amount of money. Tax your burgers, and then make ridiculous amount of money. You know, there are different things that you can do. You can trade, for example, but I would say that taxing is more consistent and also less of a pain than trading, and makes you more money. You can snowball fast, okay? You can snowball fast. And that is basically just the meta, you know, build around your capital. It makes sense because you have control. And of course, you want to increase your control throughout your whole country. That will also make you more money, which is just going to come, which you can just achieve over time by building roads, researching certain things, getting certain like modifier stacking. Modifier stacking, by the way, has returned to this game as well. You know, we had this in EU4, we have it in EU5. It's just not as egregious as in EU4, really. But you can stack, for example, proximity cost. I know that Muscovy has, I haven't played Muscovy yet, but I know that Muscovy has a lot of these modifiers that you can stack, because that makes sense, because you're gonna blob out with Muscovy. So that is kind of what you want, you know, increase your control, increase and build like around your capital. That's basically what you want to make money, which I don't know, is fine, I guess. It makes sense to a certain degree. You have obviously here the trade tab, which trading in this game is pretty you know, not that great, I would say. Actually, it's not that great trading, because it's just so convoluted and so weird in the way it works. You know, I hate that you have to like click on your markets here, bro. I start with 3 markets and then I have to manage 3 markets. And if you go further into the game, once you have like 4 or 5 markets that you need to manage, it's insane. And then the way you have to trade here, and it's just I don't know, doing that manually, it's just, it gets annoying very fast. If you're playing a small country, like let's say Genoa is not that big of a country, you know, here in Italy, if you play Lübeck or something, trading is fine, I guess, but the bigger your country gets, you just need to automate it, or it's just gonna be a pain in the ass. Okay, that's basically what trading is. I don't like the way trading is implemented in the game right now, the way it works. They need to update it, which they're probably gonna do eventually, because it's just a pain in the ass right now, the way it works. Because you have to either go here and look at these trades which are the most profitable, which is also kind of weird how that works, because if you import it, this changes, because this is only the amount of profits that it's gonna be making you at the instant you're making this trade. And it's not completely transparent how it works, because there are other things that go into this. For example, your crown power is gonna affect this, so you're not gonna really get all of it, as far as I understood, but I haven't looked too much into it. But in general, trading is a little bit annoying, and I hate, for example, if you click on one market, I hate that you have this here. Like, why do I have it like this? Why can't I look at individual trades here, you know, which I can do in the other market? And for example, let me click on the market. I go to Paris, and then why can't I import from this menu? I personally don't understand. Why can't I just select a market which I want to import or export things? Like, I want to import from that market to my market, or import from my market to that market exclusively. So I haven't found that yet. I don't know if I'm just stupid and I haven't found a way to do it, because I know if you click here, it shows you the markets, but I don't want to click on these things here. I want to see all the trades that I can do with an individual market, which is very important in the game. And you want to do this because, for example, if you want to import from a market that has some certain institution spawned, and you want to completely just import from that market, I mean, you could just look here through all these trades and look for ones that are from that market, but it's just a little bit tedious and not easy to use. And that's the general problem that I have with trading. It's not easy to use, and it's kind of convoluted in the way you have to do it. It's not complicated in the way it works, it's just complicated in the way you have to use it, if you know what I mean. I like it in Victoria 3 at least more, because it just works better. Or Victoria 2 has done it also a lot better, because you can import or export certain or like import certain goods, but then it has like this list of or like this international trading thing, and then this list of countries that come before you or after you or whatever. So yeah, trading, I think, needs an overhaul. The way it works right now is kind of annoying, and yeah, it's just at first I thought trading was the meta. You just put down as many marketplaces as you can, and then you trade as much as you can. But then I found out that it just isn't as good. And it was only because I played Hungary. And with Hungary, trading is actually really, really good, because you have so much silver, so much gold that you can just trade away, and you just print money with trading. So if you're playing Hungary, trading definitely can be the meta. I made like 4,000 in the Age of Absolutism as Hungary with trading. So yeah, but that was also automated. I didn't touch a single thing there, because there were like hundreds of trades. I don't want to manage all that. So yeah, I think trading should be easier to use, because in theory I like the idea of managing my trade and of micromanaging it, and I feel like if they fix that, this game has such a better flow in the times that you don't have much to do and that you can build, which sometimes happens at the beginning when you haven't snowballed yet, and then like managing my my trades, you know. But the way it works right now is just annoying. That was the economic side. I'm gonna reserve a rant about the whole economy at the end, okay, so like right now I'm just going through it, and at the end I will be going like into some rants, okay, because I need to get some things off my chest, or I need to kind of address something. Okay, so that was the economic side. Now we go into, let's say, should we go into, you know, the what do you call it, the country managing side, the kind of dynastic side, the diplomatic side, whatever you want to call it, this side. You have, for example, the estates here, which you had in EU4 as well. In EU4, the estates were pretty boring. Let's be honest. It was not fun, and it was not unfun as well. It was just like, it was there. It was something there to use, but there was nothing crazy behind it. So basically, you just gave them the estates, you know, certain privileges. You would lose crown power, and crown power was not as important in EU4 as it is here, you know, because you need to stay above 25% crown power in EU5, unless because then you get under 25%, you get these negative modifiers, building upkeep costs being the worst here, I think. And tax efficiency. Oh, tax efficiency is even worse, because it's 10% minus, which is, tax efficiency is one of the best things that you can stack in this game. I know as Portugal, I could stack, at least into the age of discovery, like 40%, and I was rich as hell with that. Anyway, estates here are also not that much different from EU4, I think, because you just give them, you know, some you know, what do you call it? You give them some privileges. Okay, some privileges. I was stuck on reform. Yeah, I was stuck on reform. Anyway, you give them some privileges, which increases their power and their satisfaction, which kind of works the same way in EU4, but it does not work in a way that it affects the amount you can tax. So there's a little bit more that estates affect you, which I like. Okay, so estates are a little bit better, I feel like, in EU5. Although the problem is there aren't too many, I feel like, flavor estates privileges. I mean, there are some, but I don't feel like there are enough right now, which in general you can say for the entire game, that there are not enough flavor privileges. Then you have reforms for your own country, which kind of, I would say, mirror what was it called again, you know, I mean, it was also called reforms in EU4, was it? Yeah, it was called reform. So it kind of replaces that, although you don't have like this reform progress that you need to level up and then you can have a reform. You just get reform, so it kind of replaces that, which I like, giving your country reform. I like that you can switch in and shit, but also there it's just like you want certain ones. But yeah, then you have the parliament, which is a new addition. You can call it every 5 years. Oh, it's not a new addition. You had parliaments in EU4 as well, but the way it worked was kind of different, but kind of not as well. In essence, it's kind of the same. You have this issue, you need enough support, so you do certain things for your estate. It's kind of the same, actually, as in EU4, now that I think about it. It's very useful, like it was in EU4. And every country has it. And my problem, though, is also it's like in every country it's the same. Like, why is the parliament the same in England as it is for the Golden Horde? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so that is one of the things that I wish the most they update, because it can get quite boring that like literally all the like parliament requests and parliaments that you can call are pretty much the same. while in EU4 you had some, you know, country specific ones. So Parliament, I like. Parliament is good. You get CBs from that. Although I think it's kind of overstated how important Parliament is for CBs, because I feel like there are a lot of other ways to get CBs in the game. Because the way YouTubers were making it sound like was that, at least the AARs that I was listening to, that parliaments are the only way to get CBs. And I was like, what? That's kind of weird. But it's not the only way. You can get religious CBs. You can get... I got a lot of like insult CBs or like claim throne CBs throughout my campaign. Like I just got random CBs a lot of the times. And especially in the new world, or here against you know, the Muslims, or if you want to go outside of Europe, you have a lot of free CBs because you can get a religious CB. But yeah, cabinet. This is also new. You know, a cabinet. You have, most countries start out with 2. You can go higher than that. Getting more and more through research or some other means. Here, cabinet actions, social values you can change, which we can get into later. Develop province, which is a scam, by the way. I did that in my Naples run. Kind of developed this area the whole game, the whole time, because this is where like most of your population is at. If we can look at this, Nepal starts with 300k population, so they start basically as a capital economy. So I thought like developing that province the whole time was going to be good, but it just doesn't give you that much development, and it's kind of a waste, you know. But yeah, diplomatic endeavors, encourage migration. You basically do like the things that you would do in EU4 without cabinet members, like for example integrating, assimilating, and converting people. You do this with cabinet actions. I like that, but I don't like how OP cabinets are for these certain things, because first of all, it just makes vassals so much more like OP, because your vassals all have minimum 2 cabinet members and can just completely focus on one province and completely make that province ridiculous. Okay, so yeah, I think cabinet actions need to be nerfed, or it just needs to be buffed how it is without a cabinet member. So for example, if we look here at assimilate pops into culture plus 40, you know what the normal, like the base rate of integration or like assimilation is 1. And now think about the fact that you have efficiency of a cabinet, and you have like a cabinet member that you can employ, which also has a higher efficiency, and this can quickly turn into 60, 80, or even 100. So 100 times the normal. Which makes it so easy to assimilate a population. Which, by the way, I don't like the way assimilation works in this game, because it's a flat number. So if you have 100,000 in one province, 100,000 pops, and half of those are from a different culture than your main culture, it would convert the same rate, you know. For example, you get 100, you know, you convert 100, 100, 100. Then it would, in a province with 1,000 people, where 100, or like where, I think a better comparison would be like a province where 100,000 pops are, and 99% are not of your main culture. It's the same rate, which I don't like, because it just makes culture converting, first of all, go so fucking fast. It's insane. You know, you can culture convert like the entirety of British Isles so fast. And I feel like it's very ahistorical, because also as Hungary, I played Hungary, you know, 150 years into the game or something. I didn't even go for culture convert, okay? I didn't even focus on that. But like all of my lands were Hungarian, which if you know about history, that was not the case. Hundreds of years later, there was still most of this country, like most of this year was not Hungarian. So I do feel like they should rebalance that, and in general here they should rebalance that. Increase province control. Very powerful action, bro. Very super powerful. But the problem is you have to switch. For example, here Middlesex, once that's at the max, you have to go to Essex. Once that's at the max, you have to go to Kent. Once that's at the max, you have to go back to Middlesex, and that's just annoying. Make it automate throughout like a set of provinces or whatever. That's just gonna make it way easier for us, and actually use it as this backup cabinet action, because sometimes like all of my population is my main culture, all of them are religious, and I don't really have anything to do for my cabinet members, so I want to have them do, you know, increase control, but then I would have to micromanage that for everyone, and it just becomes annoying, you know. So please Paradox, add automation to this, okay? It's tedious. That's what I think about cabinet members. Laws, you know, laws are pretty cool. Yeah, that's it. It's another thing like a state really, but you know, the laws of your country, you get a lot of bonuses from these, and you need to switch them, or like if you can switch them and stuff and get bonuses and different things. And to be fair, I think one main criticism that I have here is that for a lot of laws, there's like an obvious winner. There's like an obvious law. Okay, this law is, you want this law the more. For example, here, distribution of power. You want favor the ruler 100% of the time, because you get plus 20% crown power and plus 5% maximum tax, which is insane. There are not many sources of maximum tax in this game. This is one of them. You want this. This just makes you so much money, okay? It makes you, let's say you can tax your states at 50%. This makes you 10% more money, basically, okay? But there are also a lot of laws that are like country specific, and if those are OP and the obvious choice, I don't mind, because it's country specific. So this is our, I know that Portugal has some country specific, and Muscovy. Sorry, I got interrupted. I think I was talking about laws and Muscovy and the laws for Muscovy. Anyway, yeah, that was lost. I don't think I had much to say. Anyway, let's get to the more important part, values. Okay, I like the value system because the things that you do affect it, and you can also affect it to suit a certain need. There's been a lot of contention over how they're balanced. I can make a whole separate video for that. For each value, really. But I like the concept. I think it's not completely balanced, like I said beforehand. But the way it works right now, I like it. Or not the way it works right now, but like the concept, I like it. The way it works right now, it's okay. But it needs balance. That's all I can say to values, okay? So that was like kind of the internal politics type deal. I mean, we can go into vassals and fiefdoms and all that, and I think military, like that, the whole expansion thing can be encompassed into that, like expansion. You mainly expand in this game through vassals and fiefdoms. Dominions could also be used as England. Tributaries, I think you can also use, but you can expand with them. Anyway, so you have fiefdoms and vassals that core the land for you, because you need cabinet members to integrate land, which I think is so and so. I think they should accelerate it, but I mean, it just makes it too broken, I think, because a fiefdom can just put all its cabinet members on integrating. So they can theoretically integrate 2 at a time. And if you have 10 fiefdoms, that's basically 20 more cabinet members. Anyway. But doesn't matter too much, I think. I don't mind the vassal swarm to expand that way. It kind of is historically accurate for Europe at this time. That's kind of the way you expand it, through vassals and fiefdoms. And that they offer like some kind of reward. I like that. I like that in comparison to EU4, where you wanted to annex them always, and there was never a reason to have vassals, if not for feeding cores, because there was in EU4 it was also a thing to expand with vassals. That's nothing new. Feeding back cores was really powerful, and you wanted to do that basically, because that just gave you free land, or like free cores on land. Yeah, but it's not as meta as it is in EU5, really. I don't mind the whole like system, the way it works, and later on you get integrate areas in Age of Absolutism, and then it becomes like more meta to just own the land directly. I think it makes sense. I think it's cool. Definitely could use some work, like most things in the game, some adjustments, but I don't mind too much. But if we go into the military side, the army side of things, you have basically the system from CK2 with the flanks. So it is more complex than in EU4, but not really, because the way it works right now is it's weird. Because, for example, the meta, I think, from what I heard, because of cavalry, is to have one side cavalry, at least early game, to have one side cavalry, like the right flank cavalry, center and left flank infantry plus artillery maybe, so that you completely smoke your opponents, and that works really well. Like, you can kill your opponents with that composition. And there's not really much to the composition part, in my opinion. I feel like this system they could make more complex. But the thing is that this is something that you could say about every system. Because like I said, this is a wide game, not a deep game. And I think this is a good idea, because they're probably gonna, over the years, deepen these mechanics. And in 10 years, we're gonna be speaking a different way about this game, okay? Then we will have these systems being deep instead of just wide. Okay, so yeah, that's what I think. It's basically right now just like in EU4, but you can control the flanks, so no problem there. What I have a problem with is the force, bro. Why does Paradox decide to do the percentage thing? Like, bro, just give us the system that CK3 and CK2 are using. That's so much better. Where it's just the forts have a certain amount of points or health points that you need to siege down, and it can be affected by various like random effects. Why do we need this percentage, man? It just pisses me off. Especially in this game, it feels longer because you have the hourly ticks. You know, you have hourly ticks in this game, which you didn't have in EU4. So it just feels 10 million times longer. It just pisses me off. It just feels longer in this game. I don't know why, man. It just feels longer. But to be fair, you can get more from battles and all that stuff. And it kind of, like, forts are really useful in this game. And you want to invest into forts. But it's also annoying, man. I'm just gonna be honest. So yeah, that was kind of the military conquest part. Not too special, nothing too special. It could be rebalanced, could be redone, like I said, with pretty much everything. You know, if the research, I don't really have to get much into that. It's research. Don't really have much to say. But I want to because I've realized something right now. Earlier I said that in trade you cannot import from markets or export from markets specifically. Like, you cannot target them like that. But if there was such an option and I just don't know about it, that is not my fault, that is the fault of the game. Because either they don't have it and they should have it and should add it, or they have it but they don't properly communicate how to do this, because this is also a big problem with the game, to properly communicate what the fuck, or like how the fuck you do something, or what the fuck something is. For example, Portugal. I was playing Portugal and I unlocked conquistadors, and then it just says, oh yeah, conquistadors can like conquer on their own and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. How do I use them? And it doesn't tell me how the fuck do I use them. And I'm like, okay, it sounds like I maybe have to like maybe click on an American country, like in the Americas, and then maybe here in the country panel. No, it's not here. Maybe it's something building based. I don't know. Like, I haven't looked for like an hour, but I've looked for like a few minutes before I recorded this video, and I haven't found it. And I shouldn't be searching for that. Like, why doesn't the game just tell me where the fuck that is at? You know? And it feels like with a lot of things, it just, for example, with trade advantage, it tells you like, oh yeah, this gives you trade advantage. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, what is trade advantage? It doesn't really tell me what it is. So yeah, I feel like they could do a better job at explaining what the fuck things are supposed to be doing, okay? Because with EU4, personally, I just played games that were already there for a few years, so there were wikis, and there was like, the community knew what was up at that point. But now, because it's a new game, the community doesn't know what's up. And if you look through like the tooltips and shit, sometimes it's just like, what the fuck's going on, you know? And there's no wiki to look it up, okay? And I looked up on Google how do I use conquistadors. It doesn't tell me. It just tells me that they exist and what they do, but they don't tell me how to fucking use them. You know? So that is definitely something that I have to work on. Oh yeah, international organizations. Now that I see it here, international organizations. There are international organizations here. I like the system really a lot. They could use some reworks though, because the problem with international organizations often is that the AI just likes to spam choose one option all the time. Like, for example, in a personal union, the AI often just likes to choose, oh yeah, let's establish seniority, and then as soon as they can, no, let's maintain federal laws, no, let's establish seniority, no, let's maintain federal laws. Bro, stop it. Okay, I know that they've changed it now that you don't have to vote, sure, but it's still annoying. You know, it still pops up. It's like, shut the fuck up. I don't like how the AI votes in international organizations at all. It should be smarter about it. Okay, that is a thing. But in theory, I like the concept, and especially with PUs, I like the concept that you have to like manually integrate them, like, and it's not just like this guaranteed alliance, basically just a vassal, like it was in EU4. But I would like some more customization with like with international organizations, some more flavor and all of that. Like I said, this is a mechanic that you can deepen a lot. Yeah. Then you also have situations. For example, as the Ottomans, you have or like as any Beylik, you have the Beylik situation or whatever. You have the Red Turban situation, and the thing with situations are they're bugged. Or at release they were bugged, and still they need some fixing. I played Korea as my first nation, you know. Korea, let's choose Korea here. Country change. Okay. Yeah, I played Korea as my first nation because in EU4 Korea was also my first like nation I played the game with, because I saw a YouTuber play Japan. But then I decided to play Korea because Korea looked OP and Japan looked a little bit too complicated for me. So I played Korea and it was hella fun, and that got me into EU4, because before I tried to get into it, but it was just too complicated for me. I didn't know what to do, but with Korea the game clicked for me. So I decided in EU5 I'm just going to play it as well. And the Red Turban Rebellion just didn't work. Because the problem is, when Yuan is in a rebellion, which happens a lot, okay? They are in rebellions 24/7. The Red Turban Rebellion just completely bugs, okay? It just doesn't work. They have tried fixing it and they made it a little bit better, but still, it didn't work at release, and still, like, many situations don't work correctly yet, or like completely correctly. Like I said, there are still a lot of bugs and fixes needed, especially also Japan, which doesn't work, okay? In 1400s, it just vanishes into hundreds, or like 100 pieces, you know, the clans, and the way it's distributed just doesn't work in general. The clans, it's a clusterfuck, okay? So yeah, that's definitely a thing. But yeah, that just goes into my point that this game still needs fixing and polishing. I think colonization. Before I get into like more things, we have to get into colonization. Colonization, you explore like this. You put here exploration, and then you click one of these, and it explores, and then you can colonize, sending your population. I think it's way better that you use your population, because in EU4 it's just free land that you get with no like people that you have to send there. You just get free population, which is pretty cool. But it's just it's kind of annoying, you know. As far as I'm aware, there is no... Oh, there is. That the games send automatic missions to unveil. Oh, there is. I just answered the question for myself. Okay, there's automatic colonies and automatic exploration. Okay, cool. I answered that for myself. But the problem is that with colonization, first of all, you couldn't explore inland, which you can now, but that's cool. But the problem with colonization really is the way that your colonies expand, because they expand on their own, which is the same as it was in EU4. The problem though is that they don't have like this area that they like are limited to, so you get hella border gore with your colonies, which shouldn't be the case, because colonies is where border gore is the least acceptable, because in history those borders are artificial as hell. So I should be able to do them as to draw them as I would like to, okay? So I should be able to partition or to do whatever the fuck I want with colonies. I should be able to merge them, to split them apart, so that I can manage the borders, okay? That should be a thing. Another thing is the situation for discovering the Americas, like the Treaty of Tordesillas. You know, the treaty is bugged as hell, because everybody just completely like out of the gate. What is it again? They just they break the treaty. I forgot the exact name for it, but they break the treaty. That is obviously a bad thing for colonization, because it just completely makes that situation useless. Instantly useless, okay? I think it should take quite a while before they start to break that treaty. So for example, nations like England and France, they shouldn't be breaking the treaty while they're in the 100 Years' War. It wouldn't make any sense for them to break the treaty at that time. When they start colonizing, when they want to start colonizing, they should. Okay? And another problem with colonization is that before the age of discovery, countries like to colonize, especially Castile and the Papal States do this a lot of the times. They start colonizing West Africa, which is obviously a no-go. So yeah. That is my take on colonization. I think it's a really, really fun in concept. That there are some minor inconveniences that are connected to it, and there's a little bit and to be honest, I haven't played the long game with colonization. I've played countries that can colonize a lot, but not the long game with colonization. And as far as I understood it, colonizing certain parts of the world is way better than others. So for example, Canada is basically just worthless to colonize that, but Mexico, Mexico and Middle America and South America, those that have usable goods, those are worth to colonize, because then you can trade it to Europe and sell it to, or like trade it with European nations. That's what I got. So that is cool. That is cool. I like that idea. That kind of like, that's the way you profit from them. Which also in EU4 it was trade, but the way trade worked in EU4 was hella different. So yeah. Okay, that was my take on colonization. Now let's get into, you know, the rant that I've promised. Okay, and the rant is that the game loop right now is, like I said, you build up your core territories and you skyrocket. That's the way it works right now. You skyrocket and you become super OP, super fast, super rich, super fast. Basically, by the 14 and 1500s, you have an industrial revolution. Basically, okay? That's basically just what happens, okay? And I think that the problem with that is it just snowballs way too fast. It just snowballs way too fast. It shouldn't be this fast, okay? And in general, diseases, yeah. You have diseases here. The Black Death is one of them. And I feel like diseases, they don't really do much. You know, the Black Death, it completely destroys your country. It takes half of your population, but it does so with every surrounding country. So it doesn't really matter. Okay, because you're just on equal playing field with everybody else. And it doesn't really destroy your country that much, honestly. You can just segregate the affected and act like it isn't there. I feel like diseases don't really act as what they should. You know, kind of stopping you from expanding too much in terms of like your economic growth. And I think a part of that problem is that food is just not an issue. Okay, you can, like, I never really have any issues with food. Even when I'm not focusing on food, you know, I just build up the RGO, like the food RGO, put irrigation on it, and boom, I have infinite food. It shouldn't be this easy to get food. And I think that food in general is probably what does not stop you from expanding or like snowballing, but it should be a factor that you have to deal with. I think in general it shouldn't be, because this time period that also doesn't really allow for it. It shouldn't be that your country just grows steadily. That shouldn't be the case. I think there should be like some setbacks, okay? Some setbacks, some things that bottleneck you, that you have to deal with, that before you snowball, you know? I don't have a problem with that you start with, for example, Portugal, and you become mega rich in 200-300 years. But it shouldn't be that in 100 years I'm so rich that I don't know what to buy, which I am in my Portugal campaign. So rich that I don't know what to buy, and basically all I'm doing is like colonies, because I have so much money to spend. Might as well just go for colonies, which is not the reason that Portugal went for colonies. They were not so rich that they just decided, oh yeah, let's have some colonies. That's not what they did historically. So I think the whole, you know, snowballing is just way too fast, way too easy in this game. Basically, you just put money into your capital and surrounding locations. You get that money back, you put it in, you get that money back, you put it in, and boom, you just explode. You just explode in terms of your income. There should be a little bit more struggle towards it. And to be honest, it also kind of holds you back from conquering. Because the only reason you're conquering is because it's a map game and you want to pay the map. But honestly, it doesn't really feel like the move to expand. Like with most countries, it's just like, yeah, I could just put that money into my capital and build my country up monetarily. There's no like monetary reason to go to war. I think there should be like some reasons. For example, oh yeah, this guy has a food RGO. I need food desperately. Let me conquer that, or some like other incentives. And yeah, it shouldn't be that you just escalate that much in terms of income. Really, it should be held back a little bit, as at the least. And I think also the problem is having this game over 500 years. It's hard to map that out to a, you know, well-balanced game. You know, this is the entire world and you want to balance this for 500 years. Are you crazy? Is what I think from Paradox. I think honestly cutting out the last 100 years would probably do the game good. I'm gonna be honest. I think maybe even 150 200 years could be good, so that you actually have like a smaller time frame to work with, and then you could delegate that other time period to another game, you know, a game that suits that time period. Because I feel like EU5 is very, very ambitious, and in that aspect is also so ambitious because EU4 was already 400 years and people were complaining about like the last one, like 200 years basically. And now EU5 wants to add another 100 years and have even more, and like what? I feel like they should just cut out at least the last 100 years, and then it would actually, and then like they could, I feel like, map it out better. And then in Age of Absolutism, which would then be at the end, I think Age of Absolutism should be the end, because Age of Revolutions, you could have an entire game for it and stuff like that. But I think Age of Absolutism should be the end, and it should be like where you start snowballing. That is my opinion, at least. And the Reformation, by the way, the Reformation, it was fun in my first campaign where I experienced it as Hungary. The problem was, though, that the 30 Years' War would never ever spawn because both sides were just too scared to launch. Or like too scared to start the war, and then it just became quite annoying. Like, why aren't you fighting, man? And because I wasn't in the HRE, I couldn't like do anything about it. So yeah, I think the Reformation should act like also as like kind of a gate to your snowballing. Like, oh shit, now you have to focus on your religion. And in general, I feel like the religion of your country, it's just it doesn't matter too much what religion the people are. Culture is really the thing that matters and what you want to go for, like converting and stuff. But yeah, the Reformation should be, I think, also like another counter, and then another thing that kind of spices up the game. And then in Age of Absolutism is where you snowball. That is my opinion, at least. So yeah, that's what I think about the game. I think the game is an unpolished gem or a rough gem or whatever that saying goes. And you know, you could say like, oh yeah, isn't that basically any Paradox game at release? And I wouldn't say no. I would say no, because for example, Victoria 3, I think on release was just an unpolished turd. And EU4 also on release, I wasn't there, but looking back at it, I'm like, how could anybody play this piece of shit? The same with Hoi 4, like how could anybody play that piece of shit at release? Like it didn't have anything. Okay, so I think those games were at release like an unpolished turd, and then became good over the years. While EU5 on release is already good, it's an unpolished gem. And it's gonna become like a diamond, like a shining diamond, or maybe a brilliant pearl. And yeah, I think that this game is already good and has so much potential. It's insane. Okay, a game that is already this quality at release, a Paradox game. And then I'm just thinking about years of updates and DLC. they could make this like the best game ever that's ever gonna exist. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm hopeful for the future for this game because I feel like it has immense potential. Immense potential. Yeah, that's what I think about the game. That's my 300 hours review. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I actually said anything of worth. I hope I actually had any focus in the video because I didn't write a script. I just went from the top of the dome. I don't know how this video went. I just yapped. But yeah, that's what I think. See you guys in the next video. If I'm gonna do another video, I'm probably gonna do more videos. But yeah, see you guys. Bye. Like, subscribe.